Hi, I'm Dr. Robert D. McDonald. I am the founder of the Telos Healing Center with my wife, Reverend Dr. Luzette McDonald. I'm the creator of the Destination Method, and I want to talk to you a little bit about some examples, one or more examples, of resolving codependence. Previously, I've spoken about codependence and the way in which it emerges through the first 3 levels of the 7 levels of awareness. But now I want to give you something specific. Many years ago, back in the 1980s, I was very interested in what codependence was and how to go about resolving it. I asked a lot of people what they meant when they said they were codependent, and one woman I met said that she was codependent with her mother. I asked her how she knew that, and she told me that as far as she was concerned, she felt as though her mother was somehow attached to her hip. This woman pointed to her hip, and she said, "It's as though my mother's like a barnacle attached to my hip, right through the clothing, right through the skin, into the bone of her body." And wherever the woman went, she would carry her mother with her. As a consequence of this, she was always overly concerned about her mother's feelings, her mother's whereabouts, everything that had to do with excessive empathy. It's not just empathy, it's empathy that can't be stopped. It's sort of empathy gone wild. And so she was caught with her mother like this, and she really wanted to change that. In those days, I didn't know how. So I just started collecting information. I collected the information that was the way that this particular person represented her codependence with her mother. I spoke with a man who said that he was codependent with his brother, and the way that he knew that was that he had some kind of a cord or a tube that went from, it felt this way to him. It was the way he represented the attachment. It was a literal attachment, like a tube that went from his navel to the navel of his brother, who was far away, and he didn't want to cut that particular tube. He was afraid of what it might do. He was very attached to his brother and had been for many, many years. So I started paying attention to these different ways that people represent an emotional enmeshment. Later on, in 1989, I created the Releasing Emotional Enmeshment process, which I've been using and teaching worldwide for many, many years. Let me give you an example of what I did when I worked with my mother. My mother was 85 years old on Mother's Day when I went to her home and spent 3 or 4 days there, being connected with her, talking to her. And I was quite aware that my mother had always spoken about her mother, my grandmother, in very painful terms, very negative, lots of pain, lots of arguments, and so on. She couldn't stop thinking of her mother. Even though her mother had passed away years before that, she couldn't stop thinking of her mother in ways that were painful for her. She was emotionally enmeshed with her mother, my grandmother. So I asked my mother if she wanted to release her mother. She said she didn't know what I was talking about, naturally, because she'd never seen anything like that. But after I talked to her for a while, she said to me, "Okay, I'll try it." And what we did is found out that the way she represented her emotional enmeshment with her own mother was that it felt to her as though her mother were in the form of a kind of a black spider web all over her body. Now, my mother felt trapped by this black spider web. It was as though her mother were physically, literally, all around her and containing her. So my mother felt trapped. She felt like a prisoner. She felt very uncomfortable. And because freedom was deeply important to my mother, she always had this upset about her mother and spoke about this quite a lot. So I worked with her for approximately half an hour, just simply helping her to release emotional enmeshment with that spider web and to transform her life by the Releasing Emotional Enmeshment process. Well, at the end of that time, she was profoundly affected. 85 years old. She came to my wife, Reverend Dr. Luzette McDonald, and she said to her, "Everyone should do this." She said, "I've been suffering with this problem," with her own mother, "for more than 75 years. When that happened with my mother, I was absolutely delighted. But it wasn't new for me because I'd been doing it for years prior to that. I've been teaching it worldwide." Many, many people have codependence experiences, which can be defined as a confusion of identities, where the codependent person doesn't know where they end and the other person begins. Well, this method, the Releasing Emotional Enmeshment process, actually works to resolve that. And I'm hoping that you get a chance to learn more about what we're doing with the Destination Method, and come and see more of our videos when you get a chance. Thanks for listening.